For Session Update, I'm Shannon Loehrke. Minnesota's criminal defamation law from 1963 had been used to prosecute cases of revenge porn until last year when the Minnesota Court of Appeals struck it down as unconstitutional. Shortly thereafter, a working group began meeting at the Capitol to discuss the creation of a new law to protect victims of revenge porn. And joining me in the studio to talk about the Senate version of the bill is Senator Barb Goodwin. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you very much.
So can you tell me, to start, what is revenge porn?
Well, revenge porn is when people put images of others online or post them places or whatever of people that are either in compromising positions, sexually compromising positions, or are only partially dressed, and the images that are put out there are damaging to an individual, and they're also unaware that they're, or they don't, the other person, the victim, let's call them at this point, has not given any permission at all, has not given any kind of consent to put those images out there. And with this, you know, the current social media and everything, those images are out there for good once they're out there, because you can remove them from one site, but that doesn't mean they haven't been copied onto other sites. And we're at the point now where there's 27 states and several countries. Most all of the industrialized countries have legislation against that practice.
How did you become involved in this issue?
Well, Representative John Lesch was really the leader on this in the House, and he had a task force over the summer, and he knows that I am on the Judiciary Committee and Vice Chair of that committee, and that I'm very concerned about issues that have a negative impact on people's lives, and that my issues have been issues such as mental health and consumer protections and things like that. So I think that's why he asked me to carry it in the Senate.
Is the Senate bill similar to the House bill? Are they pretty much the same? Or?
Yeah, we took up the House bill, passed two committees before our bill got a hearing last week, and it had been amended several times over there. So we took the House language, and then the Judiciary Committee in the Senate also made some amendments to that. We also had a meeting, I had a meeting the day before the bill was to be heard to address any opposition that or concerns that people had on it. I can give you an example of that. Juveniles were punished to the same degree that adults were in the original bill. The Coalition for Battered Women opposed that and said that, you know, and I agree, that juveniles can do some really
dumb things.
Dumb things.
Yes.
I wanted to say dumb things, right?
Yes.
And then you know, they would get a gross they would get a gross misdemeanor.
Yeah.
They would have to go possibly to prison for 3 years, and they would suffer the consequences for the rest of their lives. So now, with the change that we made to that, they're going to have to go. They'll still have to go to court. They'll still have to. Be, for the very first time only, they'll have to be assessed and go to a treatment program, a kind of educational treatment program. And when they're done with that, if there's any further issues, then they'll get treated just like the adults will.
One of the concerns that I've read is that if the bill is not carefully worded, it could impinge on free speech. Are you addressing that issue?
Well, the way that issue came up, and we had actually almost a 2-hour discussion on this bill. Our belief with this bill is that it's about privacy and not about free speech, and there's proof of that in several areas of this kind of legislation that's been tried in courts before.
Right.
This is about privacy and an individual's right to have privacy and not have images like this out there for everybody to see. So that discussion was a very good discussion. We had a professor from the University of Minnesota that was on the free speech side. Then we had other experts that were on the privacy side. And it was a very helpful discussion, but ultimately the committee decided that it is a privacy issue and not a free speech. They wanted a phrase in there that would require intent intent to harm
Right.
or
Yes.
harass. But intent is very difficult to prove. For example, if you have a company that does porn, and puts porn out there and might put images out there of people that haven't consented or agreed, or it happened with a movie star or whatever,
Yeah,
unclothed
Jennifer
or
Lawrence, I think, yes.
half clothed. They're not doing it for intent to harm. They're doing it for money.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
with the way that they wanted it phrased in there, it wouldn't protect people. So we decided, as with other criminal laws, that you didn't have to prove intent to harm. You just had to prove that there wasn't consent, that it was put out there for the world to see, and that and there is a phrase in there that talks about harm. That, it's just not, they don't have to prove intent to harm, but it talks about harm.
One other area that was brought up for concern is from the Motion Pictures Association of America, and they were concerned that if the law is not carefully worded, it could violate constitutionally protected material. So photos of Holocaust survivors or the Abu Ghraib prisoners. Did your committee look at that too?
Yes, we did discuss that to some degree. The motion picture industry did not testify against it at this hearing.
Okay.
I don't know if that means that they were okay with some of the changes that were made in both the House and the Senate, or what. I mean, we didn't make all the changes that they would have wanted, certainly.
Right.
But that is freedom of speech. In the Supreme Court has ruled in the past that freedom of speech, there's a difference between freedom of speech and privacy rights.
Right.
And the difference is that with freedom of speech, it has to have some content in it that's helpful or useful, or a debate or a discussion or an education. And this kind of material doesn't do any of that.
Right.
So in other court cases, they've ruled if it doesn't have those kinds of protections, I mean, if it harms people more than, if it doesn't do any kind of education or whatever, then it's privacy. Then it's a privacy
Right.
issue if it's intentionally harms somebody.
So in the meantime, what should someone who is a victim of revenge porn do?
Well, they should contact the police. There are protections. The only protections now in law are that if they're underage, and then it's child porn, and
Right.
there's a statute
Right.
to protect them on that. Until this law becomes effective, which would be August 1st of this year, there isn't a whole lot that they can do. They can report it. They can attempt to sue. They can attempt to get them on harassment charges. And stalking, if those charges and so forth. But until this passes, we really don't have any really good protections in Minnesota at this point.
So this is important legislation.
It's very important legislation. These kind of activities have ruined a lot of people's lives. Even when you get young people, where a bunch of girls do it to another girl, or cause harm that way, or a breakup with a relationship, and then there are pictures that maybe somebody thought would be totally confidential and not shared with anybody are suddenly out there. And it's important because it affects people's life. It affects their work and whether or not they're able to get a job.
Sure.
It affects their future, and it has the potential to affect their future forever. So they're a victim just as much as, let's say, a victim of serious sexual harassment, one-on-one, face-to-face, or I don't want to equate it with rape. I mean, that's really
Right.
the most awful thing. But
it is psychologically damaging.
It is a psychological rape.
Yes.
And
Senator Goodwin, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing this legislation become law.
thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.